Welcome, everybody. Yes, you're seeing us in the morning, and we're very excited to be here. Welcome to another Good Gut Live podcast and episode. If you're watching live, we're so excited for you to really get to know our guests, get to know the topic. We're going to be talking about all things enzymes, how it relates to the gut, your digestion, intolerances, and so much more today. We are joined today with Iris, and we're going to have Iris, please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Iris, and I've been working at Intolerant as a registered dietitian for over 2 years now. And I think my passion as a dietitian really lies in helping people feel better in their daily lives, especially when digestive issues have been holding them back. I think for me, there's nothing more rewarding than just seeing someone regain confidence and comfort and joy around food again, because that's really an issue with digestive problems. And with Intolerant, I mainly focus on advising and supporting individuals with these gut-related problems. And I also train other healthcare professionals, basically on how to use enzyme therapy in their practice. And I think sharing this knowledge and also helping others, is a part of the job I really enjoy.
I love it. And for those that aren't familiar, what is Intoleran?
Yeah, so Intolerant, I've been with Intolerant for about 2 years now, but the company itself has been around since 2008, actually. So quite a long time. And I can share some background story. I always really like to tell the story because it all started with the founder of the company who struggled with lactose intolerance himself. So he started himself creating supplements to help himself, but also others with the discomfort of lactose intolerance. And so that's how it really started. And after he just created more supplements with enzymes, and the goal is really here helping people enjoy food again, despite any intolerances or gut-related challenges. So now, fast forward to about almost 20 years later, we have a wide range of very specific digestive enzyme supplements. And this is from helping people with lactose to help people with fructose intolerance, but also like the broader FODMAP sensitivities. And also, for example, helping people with digesting sucrose and starch and histamine, for example. So I think overall at Intolerant, we're a Dutch company based in the Netherlands, and our main focus is to really help people enjoy food again. And we're scientifically based, and we have 5 dietitians who work at the company. So for us, it's really important, as we know, as a dietitian, to really help people and help them gain some trust in their diet again. And I think for me, I love working here because I get so many people who come to me and they have questions like, please help me. I have such a restrictive diet, and what do I need to do? And if we can say, oh, we can help you and you can try this, and then they're really happy because it helps. And they say things like, oh, I wish I found you earlier, or your guys are really lifesavers. That just really makes my day. That's really a wonderful day for me if that happens. Yeah.
I love it, and I have to say we're excited because it's funny. Like on the podcast and here on our platform, we don't always talk to dietitians as often. We are dietitians. We're a
Yeah.
practice of dietitians, and for those that maybe don't know, my name is James Marin. I'm an integrative registered dietitian, environmental nutritionist, one of the co-founders of Married to Health.
I'm Dahlia Marin, integrative dietitian. I'm a certified gastrointestinal nutritionist, one of the other co-founders. But yes, we love, love, love not only working with the dietitians in our practice, we have 8 dietitians in our practice, but also chatting with other dietitians, because I really think dietitians are overshadowed and how much we can
Yeah.
help people with their relationship with food. I think people think to go to the doctor, which
Yeah.
absolutely see your physician, see your healthcare team. But
Yeah.
I really don't think they realize or appreciate how much a dietitian can help them. And
Yeah.
especially with something that everyone engages in every single day, right? Eating. And I
Yeah.
think people assume with a dietitian, oh, you're just going to tell me to eat more fruits and vegetables or more fiber, but I might not be able to tolerate it. So I think that that's where people kind of shy away from seeing dietitians without realizing we're the ones who really are in the know about these really cool products like Intoleran and digestive enzymes and their applicability, where, you know, other care team members are worried about what they are trained in, like medicine or physical therapies or other modalities where this is what we're trained in. And as
Yeah.
a dietitian, we're so heavily trained in the evidence and the science. But for those who may not know, how do digestive enzymes work? Because I think there are so many out there, and people may have tried just a general digestive enzyme, and it might not have warranted much relief for them. For those who aren't familiar, how specifically do some of the intolerant digestive enzymes work?
Yeah, well, that's a really good question. I think, first of all, it's good to explain what are digestive enzymes and how do they work actually in our body.
Yeah.
Um, well, digestive enzymes are like specialized proteins that help your body break down food into nutrients it can absorb. And they play an essential role in digestion. Most of this activity takes place in the small intestine, where many digestive enzymes are naturally produced. You can also make some enzymes in your pancreas or, for example, in your saliva, but most of the enzymes are produced in your small intestine. And these enzymes work according, we always call it the lock and key principle to make it a bit practical. So each enzyme fits only in one specific type of nutrient. For example, the lactase enzyme only works for lactose. And because of this high specificity, an enzyme can perform only one task and cannot compensate for other enzymes. And if your body doesn't produce enough of a certain digestive enzyme, then the food may remain partially undigested. So this can lead to excess fermentation in the gut and cause these symptoms such as the bloating, gas, abdominal discomfort, or for example, changes in your bowel habits. So in these cases, digestive enzymes can really help you support the enzymes you're making yourself. And to answer your question with intolerant, we have mainly enzymes to help digestive FODMAPs. Um, I can explain a bit more about FODMAPs if you would like.
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
definitely. Yeah, let us know. There's I would say many in our audience who know FODMAPs, maybe some that don't. So yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, so I can keep it a bit short, but I think most of you know, like FODMAPs are a group of fermentable carbohydrates, and what we see a lot is that people cannot really digest these carbohydrates properly. Um, so we mostly have enzymes to help you digest these kind of FODMAPs, and I think our enzymes are also quite high dosed, so that also really helps people who may have symptoms, may have not symptoms. We always say just try the enzymes and see if it works. And if you have, for example, a lactose intolerance or a reaction to the fructans or the galactans, the phos or the gas, if you use our enzyme and it works, then you know you react to these kind of food groups. And if you use the enzyme and it doesn't work, then you know you don't react to these food groups. But then you know a little bit more about your situation, because it's always, I think, for people with IBS or with food intolerance, it's always quite of a trial and error and just see what works and trying out new things. So yeah, that's really where we are going to help.
And it's very contrary to what people usually want to do for IBS because people are accustomed to taking away food and restricting
Yeah,
and going on a low FODMAP diet. And so this is kind of the other side of the coin, which really enables a lot more freedom.
yeah,
Um, and we know IBS is kind of just a catch-all phrase for
yeah,
having a change in GI symptoms, bowel habits. But for those who might not be familiar with irritable bowel syndrome, what can trigger it, outside of FODMAPs, are there any other common food triggers for IBS? And if not, how are FODMAPs specifically leading to symptoms like bloating, gas, abdominal pain? What is their role in IBS to where a low FODMAP diet is kind of the go-to for IBS?
yeah. Yeah, when we talk about IBS and food triggers, one thing is very clear, and that's not everyone reacts the same way to food. So that's really a thing, of course, with IBS. Someone reacts to lactose, for example. Someone reacts to the fructose or the galactose. So that, and it can also be different in how badly you react, how badly your symptoms are there.
Mhm.
But I think in a big part of the discomfort many people experience, the FODMAP carbohydrates, yeah, we just see that they aren't properly broken down in the small intestine. So we see that's where enzyme therapy really can make a difference in helping these people. And besides the FODMAPs, we also see some people react to sucrose, for example. This is also a disaccharide, and yeah, we see it kind of works the same as FODMAP. So we see the sucrose isn't broken down properly, so it will stay intact and go to your large intestine, and that's where it will be fermented by the gut bacteria. And these excess fermentation that can really cause the problems. So sucrose and, for example, also starch. Some people really have problems with digesting starch properly. And if we take another turn, also histamine is a problem for a lot of people. This works kind of different, but we do have an enzyme available that can help break down histamine in your gut.
Yes. I love that these are all available because, as I mentioned, I think so many people just want to restrict for prolonged periods of time without realizing it's really not recommended to be restricting all these different food groups for prolonged periods of time. Sure, it can decrease symptoms temporarily, but in the long term can actually worsen the state of the microbiome, as we've seen in many studies. So, not only is it not sustainable just for your joy and your relationship with food to restrict these FODMAPs forever, histamines forever, these different foods that you might not tolerate forever, it's also restricting our gut bugs and our gut microbes and their favorite foods. And then that affects our system at large because we know there's kind of a gut everything connection. So
Mhm.
it's not the most sustainable plan for people.
Yeah.
But we also then get the question on the other side of it of, do I have to take enzymes forever?
Yeah.
And is that sustainable? And the analogy that I like to give is going on an elimination diet is kind of like maybe you injured your leg. And going on an elimination diet is kind of just saying, I'm not going to use my leg. I'm going to use a wheelchair. I'm going to get on bed rest. Enzymes are kind of like crutches. But then people wonder, okay, how long do I need these crutches? Is this something I'm going to take forever? In your experience as a dietitian working with Intoleran, what do you tell people who are worried about that?
Yeah, we get this question a lot actually, and I of course understand. I think when you have a food intolerance, there are two things you can do, and the first thing is just to eliminate the food you are intolerant to. I think that's like the basic and simple one. But on the other hand, we do see that it's not for everyone. Not everyone can do it because if you react to a lot of food groups, there's almost nothing you can eat. So that's of course not an option. And on the other hand, there are still people who would like to eat out, or with the holidays coming up, it's really difficult for people to have their own diet. So I think in that matter, it's really up to you how long and how often you want to use the enzymes. I think with digestive enzymes, it's good to know that you can't overdose with enzymes, or your gut doesn't become lazy. People often think that with your own enzyme production, it's just the same as it was. You just supplement these enzymes and they go out as the same way they just go out. So yeah, that doesn't really have an effect on your gut or anything. So it really depends. You can use them every day with every meal, but I'm not sure if that's sustainable for everyone. I think I often say when people ask me this, I say when you can have your own diet and it's a good diet with all nutrients, and it's yeah, if that's good for you, just to try at home, for example. If you can have your diet at home and you don't need enzymes, then I would do so. And if you want to go out for dinner, or if you're having dinner with your friends or anything, then you can use the enzyme. If you go on a holiday, so that's what I often say. You can use it every day. It's really up to you.
Mhm.
For those who might not be familiar, can you explain how enzymes should be used just in real life if they are using them while they're on holiday or vacation, if they're using them when going out to restaurants? When should they be taken? At what point in the meal? Should they ever be redosed in a meal if it's a very long meal? How do you usually explain to people that they should be using enzymes?
Yeah, well, I get this question also a lot. Like, how do I actually use these supplements in real life?
Yes.
Well, it's actually really straightforward, but using them correctly can really make a big difference in how effective they are. So digestive enzymes work in the digestive tract right at the moment when the food arrives. So that really means timing matters. And we always say use the enzymes just before the meal or with your very first bite, because it's really important that the enzyme mixes with the food you're eating. So it goes to your digestive tract together, and then it will help break down the nutrient. So sometimes people ask me like, "Oh, I've taken a meal about half an hour ago. Can I still take the enzyme?" And I wouldn't really recommend this because then it's really hard to get it mixed together. So the enzyme doesn't really mix with the food you have taken like half an hour ago. So it doesn't work properly. So with enzymes, it's really important to take them just right before the meal, and they work about like 30 to 45 minutes. So if you are dining out with your friends and you have the enzymes with your entree and you want to have a dessert where you need them, then you probably need to take them again.
Got it. And just to kind of like summarize here, it's very interesting. So, I mean, for both of you, would you say this is a big key in so much of what we're seeing in IBS and even other forms of dysbiosis, where are people just lacking enzymes for whatever reason, where either it's their brush border that's damaged or their pancreas or liver is enzyme deficiency a thing that we're seeing? Is that something where we're going, okay, it's enzymes that are one of, if not the root cause of why we're seeing so much gut dysbiosis and GI symptoms?
Yeah, I think it's definitely one of the biggest problems. I think, for example, with SIBO or with IBS, there is a lot of damage in your gut. So that also affects how many enzymes you're making, what kind of enzymes you're making. So I think, that has really effect on. I think enzyme deficiency is really one of the keys here. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would agree, especially as you mentioned, with a condition like SIBO, where these microbes might be damaging the mucus barrier that is protective, and then that can sometimes give way to damage in that brush border. And yes, that can be recouped with getting rid of the SIBO and treating the root cause. Even histamines with enzymes that help break down histamines, yes, those can be kind of rebuilt, but it might be a temporary support that is needed, or for some people, more of a long-term support, because it just depends on what they have underlying and what they have going on. We know the same can be true with exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, that,
Yeah.
that is more of a long-term condition, but we do know certain things temporarily injure or irritate the pancreas to where it just can't keep up. It can't keep up with its workload. So it's always nice to have this additional support. I also sometimes find if somebody just is either on a restrictive diet for a very long time, or they just don't tend to eat certain things day to day, our
Mhm.
body is always trying to conserve energy. So, for example, if somebody is not really eating gluten and then they go out and they're at a party or at a restaurant and they're eating it there, that's when an enzyme like that might be helpful, because their body's just not used to making that level of enzyme that they might require for that meal. So, it's always nice to have that help and have that supplement when you need it. And then the meals that you don't, you don't. But it's always nice to know which ones to use when. And you mentioned, somebody might go out to a restaurant and take an enzyme for their entree and then take a different one for their dessert. For example, if they're eating a pasta for their entree, a cheesecake for their dessert, would
Mhm.
that look like them possibly using different enzymes? Can you explain kind of when different enzymes are appropriate and which of the enzymes they could use for which types of meals?
As integrative registered dietitians for over a decade, we use enzyme therapy. Enzyme therapy is key in our Heal with Each Meal protocols. And with that, it allows a lot of our patients who are struggling to incorporate fruits and tubers and roots and vegetables and seeds and even dry fruit because of the fructose to better tolerate those foods. Remember, the goal is about adding back food diversity, adding back foods into your diet, not just eliminate, and staying on an extreme elimination diet. Enzymes like Intoleran, and we trust brands like Intoleran because they make quality enzymes with ingredients that you can actually trust, with formulations that actually work, because we've used it on hundreds, if not thousands, of our patients in our practice to help them incorporate these whole foods, these healthy foods that are going to help you build your gut microbiome. Learn more about Intoleran down below. You can click down below, and we use it in our practice here at Married to Health. We trust it, and we'll continue to properly vet and properly curate supplements and therapies you can use in your everyday life. Thank you so much for trusting Married to Health and all of our integrated registered dietitians that are extremely dedicated to helping you heal with each meal.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So we have different kind of enzymes, and I can go through them, but we also have supplements who combine these enzymes. And actually, this is also a question I get a lot from people. Can I combine certain types of enzymes with each other? And yes, you can, because as I explained before, they work via the lock and key principle. So one enzyme can work on one specific nutrient, so they can't interfere with each other or anything. But yeah, enzyme therapy is designed to really target exactly the issue. So for example, we have the lactase enzyme, which helps with the digestion of lactose, which is the sugar in milk and of course in dairy products. We also have the enzyme xylose isomerase, and this helps people who struggle with fructose intolerance from fruits and apples, pears, sweeteners like honey. And what's interesting about this enzyme is it doesn't, for example, lactase really breaks down lactose into monosaccharides, but xylose isomerase, of course, fructose is already a monosaccharide, so it can be broken down any further. But this enzyme can really help create like a 1-to-1 ratio between fructose and glucose. And in this way, there will be no free fructose in your intestine, and this will really help you with the gut problems. The other enzyme we have is alpha galactosidase, and this enzyme supports the digestion of the oligosaccharides, so the galacto-oligosaccharides and fructo-oligosaccharides, which is a fermentable carbohydrate found mostly in beans, chickpeas, lentils, garlic, or wheat. These are, of course, foods who tend to cause a lot of gas, so we see a lot of people who use this enzyme. From the FODMAP groups, there is, of course, the group the polyols. Unfortunately, we don't have any enzyme for that. There is not an enzyme found that can really help break down this group. So that's one we don't have. But if we go further than the FODMAPs, for example, people with sucrase isomaltase deficiency, we have our product Starchway, which has like the sucrase and the glucoamylase enzymes that can really help break down sucrose and starches. So we see these a lot. And of course, for the people with histamine intolerance, we have our DHO products, which contain the DHO enzyme, which can help break down excess histamine in your gut.
Mm-hmm. And I definitely want to get into histamines, but what I want to say is, it's funny. We find, I want to get both of your opinions. We find that there are people who are a little bit reluctant to take enzymes, where there are still some myths around enzymes where they get a little scared of them, I would say. But then we also maybe just on what you're saying, because it reminds me of the analogy of almost like a garbage disposal, right? There's the people who kind of use the enzymes as like, great, as long as I have my enzymes, I'm going to eat a whole pizza with tons of gluten, even though I know it hurts my stomach. I'm going to have that cheesecake. I'm really going to go crazy, almost thinking like I can shove anything down my garbage disposal, bones and even pieces of wood, and everything can go down there. Is that the case? I think there's a little bit of overconfidence where they're like, I'm going to eat these foods I know hurt my stomach, but I'm just going to take a lot of enzymes. Is that like a good plan or mindset, or what's opinions on that?
Well, I don't really want to say that's really a good plan or a good mindset, because of course that's not really healthy. Like if you have a lot of pizza or a lot of sweets or cake, that's of course not good for your gut, but also not for the rest of your body. So I must say I don't really hear people very often that they do these kind of things, or perhaps they don't tell me. That's of course something I don't know.
Yeah.
But no, I don't. I have the feeling people with gut problems always try to eat really healthy. And if they then they know, oh, there's an enzyme I can take, but they still keep on eating really healthy. So that's really the idea I have of these people. I'm not sure, Dalia, if you have any other thoughts, but
Well, I think James has unique experience because he sees mainly male patients. So, I think the typical IBS patient is more female. We know, over 60% of IBS patients are female. And so, one, our hormones just make our nerves more gas in our intestines or extra liquid in our intestines that some of these bring in. And so we experience levels to a higher degree. Say no female out there will do that, but I think because we're just more sensitive to the sensations of it, I don't tend to see that. I don't typically see that, and I don't think that person's really seeking out a dietitian at the end of the day. They
no,
might be,
Yeah.
absolutely.
yeah,
No, and I do.
yeah,
I say that with experience because I do. And I think it is maybe more male focused where we are kind of that garbage disposal in that analogy. And but we do, like I do have some patients who start to, when they finally do go, okay, I trust you, I'm gonna take the enzymes, and they feel that relief. And they're like, well, great, I'm gonna go out on the weekend and have those chicken wings and beer and all these things and more dessert, or Thanksgiving's coming up and Christmas is coming up. Great, I have my enzymes. It's no big deal. But yeah, it's very important what we do educate on, and even my male patients I educate on is no, 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 we still want to get to the root. These enzymes, like Dahlia is saying, are can be a crutch or something to use when traveling, going out to eat, things
yeah,
like that. They're a tool, but they're not a tool where it's like, okay, I can use the hammer as a tool for everything. It's like, no, we still want to see what's going on, what's at your root, what's underneath, and what maybe caused your GI issues to begin with, and not just rely completely on enzymes. So,
yeah.
yeah,
Totally, yeah.
yeah, love that.
Absolutely.
And,
And for
okay.
those who might have tried other enzymes and just said, well, I took this pancreatic enzyme and it had amylase, protease, lipase.
Yes.
When a supplement has something like that, just general amylases in it,
Mhm.
how do people know what they're getting? And, what makes it different than taking something Intoleran has, where it's more highly specific, highly specialized to the type of carbohydrate they might not be tolerating?
Yeah, I think in these cases for us, if someone comes to us and say, "Oh, I think I need to use enzymes, but I'm not really sure on which one I use," my first question, of course, always is, "Have you gone to a registered dietitian who can help you?" That's always my first question. But afterwards, I always say, "Do you know what kind of foods cause your problems, or what kind of symptoms do you have?" Because I always want to have the most broad picture I can have of someone, his situation, and then I know, okay, this person is definitely reacting to lactose, or these are definitely the onion and the garlic and the wheat, so I can use this specific enzyme, or I can use this specific enzyme. So I think we always try to really ask a lot of questions to really know what's the case of this person. Um, and yeah, I think also if someone already uses this enzyme mixed with like amylase and the lipase and the protease, and it doesn't really help them, then of course you can cross that off. Like, okay, it's not probably not something with your fat digestion, or probably not something with your protein digestion. So then I almost know for sure that it should be something with the carbohydrate digestion. So that makes it for me a little bit easier to know where I can search and what kind of enzyme I would recommend in this case.
I love
Right.
that. When people are using these highly specialized enzymes, I know you said the body will not become reliant on them. It's kind of just a supplement, an addition to what the body's already producing. So, would you say then that makes them safe for daily use?
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they're safe for daily use, and I think we get this question also a lot about, is it scientifically based, or do you have any literature on the enzymes? And there has been a lot of scientific evidence. There has been a lot of scientific evidence on enzymes. So I think that's for me something nice to rely on, because I know, of course, I know from the people I speak to, the patients who use the enzymes, that it really works for them. But I can also rely on like the scientific background of the enzymes. That I know there have been a lot of studies who make sure they're safe to use and safe on daily basis and safe in high dosages. And yeah, for me, that's really important, because if we are, for example, making new products, this is really the one thing we mainly focus on, is looking into literature and seeing, is there been any scientific, have there been any studies on this enzyme, or what do we know about it? So I think for us, that's really the key on, for example, making new products.
And is there any validity to this idea of like gut laziness, where when you are taking the enzymes or taking them long term or daily, like will it kind of make your gut lazy in a way?
Yeah, I'm not sure where it comes from. Because it's definitely not true. Actually, we there have been some studies done on people with lactose intolerance, for example, if they don't eat lactose for a really long time, and that makes your lactase production a little bit lower. So if you eat lactose again, then you would highly react to this. So if you eat lactose like every week or every day, for example, if you have lactose intolerance, and if you use the lactase enzyme, your own production will also be stimulated to produce more lactase. So I think it's kind of the opposite, but I'm not sure how people got to this problem. I think because there wasn't much evidence available, or perhaps they're a little bit scared. I'm not sure why, but I don't really agree with it.
Yeah.
And would you say there are any side effects that we know of with digestive enzymes?
Yeah, with the enzymes on itself, we don't really hear people having side effects. I think sometimes people are scared to have side effects, so they come to us and they say, "Oh, I've tried your product and I have a lot of complaints now." And most of the time, it's because they're taking too less of the enzyme. So we, for example, recommend taking 1 to 3 capsules with the meal. And sometimes people really need to use the 3 capsules, because otherwise there are still the nutrients who are going to the gut and get fermented, and you still get the complaints. So then I always ask, like, how many capsules did you take? And they really, most of the time, they ask, oh, I only took 1, or like I twisted it open and took like a little bit because I'm a bit scared. And then I always recommend that, and I say it's safe to use, and we have done a lot of studies, so try to take 3 next time, and most of the time that really helps with the problem. So
So getting that
And I know
therapeutic dose.
And I know I'm curious, yeah, and speaking like with therapeutic doses and dosing correctly, and even just with sourcing, like I know a lot of our patients get curious, and as health professionals, we get curious. Where are you guys deriving your enzymes from, or sourcing? I guess in general, like how are you making your enzymes?
yeah, that's a good question. Actually, I can understand you're curious, how are we making these enzymes,
Yeah.
but we are extracting them from like bacteria and fungi. So we can extract the enzyme from there. So they're all plant-based. We can extract the enzyme from there and just make them really high dose, and then put it again in a capsule. It's actually quite simple. You just have to know.
Cool. Yeah, I love that. And it's all the more reason to really get to the root where your microbiome is helping you digest. There's many bacterial species, microbial species that produce enzymes that help you digest your food. And so your body's helping you, your microbiome's helping you, and then you can use kind of these crutches, so to speak, or these enzymes to help you, which is really, really cool. I love that.
And we have some at DDW this year, Digestive Disease Week, which is one of the largest GI conferences in the US. We got to know Intoleran. I was able to get some sample packs. So I'd love to just go through these and for you to kind of explain to those who are watching and listening who each of these enzymes could benefit. So if they're curious, well, there's so many different options here. Which one would I pick, or which ones? I'd love to go through them if you're okay with that. We
Sure.
can start with the lactase. Who would benefit from taking lactase?
Yeah, for example, people with lactose intolerance, of course, and the lactase 20,000 you have there, it's really a high dose one,
Mhm.
our highest dose lactase enzyme. So we often recommend this for people who react really heavy to like a few sips of milk, or they are really heavily lactose intolerant. Then we would mostly recommend these. But what's really nice about these as well, like these are one of the few enzymes or one of the few supplements we have are in, most of the supplements are in capsules, but these are like in breakable tablets. Um,
Mhm.
so you can try one with your meal, but if you don't have any complaints, you can try next time with your meal, like taking half of it and seeing if it works the same. So
Yeah.
for people with lactose intolerance, we react really heavily, actually.
And what's so interesting is, yes, we can lose lactase production over time, but even those who are eating it sometimes just become lactose intolerant. Studies show around 5 or 6 years old, when is kind of the consensus natural weaning time in life, or kind of the most prolonged weaning time. That's when our body's like, okay, they're probably not having more lactose, they don't need as much lactase. And we do see that. And it was
Yeah.
so interesting, a couple of years ago, my sister-in-law was saying, oh, one of her daughters kept vomiting after she would eat. And I know that they eat a lot of dairy in their household. And so I
Yeah.
said, I know all your kids eat a lot of dairy and the other ones might be okay with it, but she might be lactose intolerant. And sure enough, she was. And it came about right around the time she was 5 or 6, where that
Oh, yeah.
does tend to show up. So now she has her lactase with her, and she knows, okay, if I'm going to eat some lactose, I might need this and I might rely on this. And, the other two kids are okay, but that might happen for some people where they were okay with it and they're still stimulating, but that production has just declined. So I love it. So that person could benefit from
And
lactase
at
if
the
they
same
continue
time,
to
we do see
choose.
so many patients who just are like, I just can't do dairy. And we're like, yeah, great. And they just don't. And they find such relief in just
Hmm.
being completely dairy free, which is
Yeah.
great. So yeah.
Yeah. But if you're unsure, if you do react to it, that can be an option. What about um, fibractase? This is the
Yeah.
next one. It has alpha galactosidase in it.
Yeah. So fibroctase is the one you can really use with helping digest the oligosaccharides. So the fructooligosaccharides and the galacto-oligosaccharides. And this is one we see a lot. People, of course, it's normal to be a little bit bloated if you eat a lot of beans or wheat or onion or garlic. But we do see with some people they are like super bloated, have a lot of flatulence, have a lot of symptoms. I think also with like the reaction to these oligosaccharides, we have a lot of people who have, yeah, I find it like really sad stories. For example, there was this woman who emailed me and she said that if she eats like wheat or onion or garlic, she would get really bloated and people would ask her if she was pregnant.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's really sad, of course. And then she uses this enzyme, and it really helps with the bloating and with the flatulence. So of course, it's for your problems and your symptoms, but also I think for your quality of life, these enzymes can also really help you.
I love it. Perfect. So that person who's struggling with the, like you said, fructooligosaccharides, the fructans, the galacto-oligosaccharides, if those are the FODMAPs that they're struggling with, that can help with a lot of them, it sounds like. What about starch away? And this
Yeah.
one has glucoamylase and invertase.
Yes. So Starchway we actually designed this for people with sucrase isomaltase deficiency.
Mhm.
So this helps with the digestion of the starches and also with sucrose. And most of the time we see this together, so people can digest starch properly and also can digest sucrose properly. So that's why we thought we just combine these enzymes and make one product for these people.
And this can be so, so, so helpful as well. And
Yeah.
I love that this is just a shelf stable product, because Here in the US, there's a medication that can
Yeah,
help with that
I
sucrase
know. Yeah.
isomaltase deficiency. It needs to be refrigerated. It is very difficult to use. So my patients really appreciate this starch whey because they can travel with it. They can take it when they're going out to eat, and it's not this whole production that they have to worry about. How would you say starch whey differs from carbo starch? Because I see that this has similar
Yeah.
enzymes, but also a few additional ones as well, where it has glucoamylase, alpha galactosidase again, invertase, and lactase.
Yeah, so we made carbo starch for the people who react to the sucrose and starch, so for example, with the sucrase isomaltase deficiency, but also for the people who react to the FODMAPs like the lactose and the oligosaccharides. We do see that these can be combined together, so people react to all of these. And we saw a lot of people who then bought our starch whey, but also the Cotrace, and they thought it was yeah, they didn't really like it because the capsules they look really similar, so they didn't really know which one did I take, how did it go. So that's why we thought why we don't just combine these together. So for the people with a
Mhm.
FODMAP intolerance, but also the sucrase isomaltase deficiency.
Mm-hmm. And so with the Quatrace, this does have the xylose isomerase.
Yeah.
Which specific foods or which specific carbohydrates is this helpful for?
So the Quatrace is really we always call it our FODMAP supplement. So
Mhm.
it helps you break down all the FODMAPs except for the polyols.
Mhm.
And the xylose isomerase really helps with the digestion of fructose, so the fruits, apples, pears, cherries, and honey. Um,
Mhm.
and the lactose is in there, of the lactase for the lactose, and also the alpha galactosidase for the oligosaccharides. And we did add a little bit of the invertase in there for the people with sucrose intolerance.
Mhm.
Love
Love
it.
it. Perfect. And then lastly, we have fructase here.
Yeah,
Um, Tell us about fructase. And this one's just the xylose
yeah,
isomerase. So you just talked about that one. So you said for fructose.
yeah. So that's the specific one for the fructose intolerant. So we have like the combined products, so the carbo starch and the quadrate for people who have multiple intolerances. But of course,
Mhm.
you can also only react to lactose or fructose or to the oligosaccharides. And we don't want anyone taking any enzymes they don't need to take. So that's why we thought we just make them separately and we combine them together. So for everyone, they know what to take.
I love that. And one we don't have, but we want to definitely talk about because it's become so prevalent, especially the last 5 years,
Mhm.
is the DAO. So, for
Yeah,
those who might not be familiar, I know you mentioned it a few times. I'd love
yeah.
to spend the remainder of our time talking a lot about histamines, DAO, how this enzyme can help, what people are dealing with possible histamine intolerance or even mast cell disease or activation syndrome.
For those of you that don't know, Dahlia was our first patient. She struggled with SIBO and IBS and so many GI problems on a day-to-day basis, hunched over, causing so many other issues. We wish we had a protocol in place, a program in place that led her through step by step, inch by inch, and really guide by guide so she had everything at her fingertips. Now we have that. That is our Good Gut SIBO IBS program. You can do it 100% plant-based. You can customize it, but it is one of the only programs that is geared towards plants that can help you customize plants, that can help you tolerate more plants, and really gets to the root of your SIBO, of your IBS, of your ISO, SIFO, IMO, and any other type of overgrowth.
Yeah. So for the breakdown of histamine, we make the DHO enzymes in our body ourselves, in our gut. But we do see people with histamine intolerance, and yeah, the most common complaint is that they have excess histamine in their gut, which will go into the bloodstream, and then they will have all kinds of different complaints. And with histamine intolerance, it's not just only the gut problems, but it's also like skin problems or like headache, anything like that. It can be really all over the place. So for histamine intolerance, it's really hard to diagnose or to know if someone has a histamine intolerance because these complaints can be so different with one person and so different with another person. But there has been a lot of scientific or a lot of literature on the DHO enzyme if you use it from a supplement. So it actually works the same with the other enzymes. So you just take it from a supplement, and then it will help you break down the excess histamine you have in your gut. But with our other enzymes, the effect is always directly. For example, if you have lactose intolerance and you take the lactase enzyme, you don't have any complaints if you drink some milk. But with histamine intolerance, we see that the histamine in your blood is really high with a lot of people. Um, so if you take one time the DHO enzyme, it doesn't really help you because then the histamine in your body is a little bit higher, but it needs to be here. So there is still a lot of excess histamine in your bloodstream. So with the DHO enzyme, we always recommend to taking it a few weeks. And after these few weeks, then you really know if it works for you. And if the complaints are less, then you can say that you have an histamine intolerance, and then the enzyme works for you.
Yeah. And then to be clear, I mean, histamine is this really amazing protein. It's ubiquitous. It's in our environment.
Yeah,
It's in our food. It's in our
yeah,
body. Like you're
Our
saying, it's
immune
in our
system produces
bloodstream.
it.
It's everywhere. We need to
yeah,
break it down. We need to utilize this amazing protein. It's just, it can, just like anything else, just like we're talking about FODMAPs, or we're talking about, starches and another in a way, it can get overwhelmed body, and the body can get just kind of
yeah,
concentrated in certain areas with histamine. And then we have those histamine receptors, yeah, from head to toe, and those
mm,
concentrations, it's kind of different for everyone. I know I
Mm-hmm.
used to suffer with migraines. I would have these extreme
yeah,
histamine issues and would get migraines like
Allergies.
crazy, and
yeah,
allergies, so that itchiness all over the face,
yeah,
where others get joint pain, or others get tachycardia, where their heart is just rapidly beating for no reason. And so it's so interesting. It's such a hot topic where so many of our
yeah,
patients have questions, or we're identifying, oh, you're not really properly breaking down your histamines, and even like digesting your histamines. How can we help you with that? And there really is a lot of great therapies, enzyme therapy being one, which is
yeah,
so, it has been so helpful. I would probably say DAO is one of the major enzymes in our practice that we use. So it's so helpful to have that
Mm-hmm.
in our
yeah,
toolbox.
And
yeah,
yeah, I think so many don't realize when they are already low FODMAP, but they're saying, I'm reacting to low FODMAP foods and I'm really not understanding why I'm so bloated. And they might not have the respiratory symptoms that most people associate with histamines. So they might say, no, I'm not congested, sneezing, itchy, runny. It's not
mhm,
that, but
yeah,
it's not always that. It might not appear there, and those might not be the mucous membranes that are reacting to the histamine. Like you said, it could be those that are in the intestines, and it could be in the intestines where they're finding, yes, low FODMAP foods like tomatoes they might be reacting to, or peppers, or they
yeah,
might find even yeast and other fermented foods they are reacting to, even if it is a low FODMAP food. And we
yeah,
know, just like that happens with other enzymes to break down FODMAPs, when somebody does have SIBO or dysbiosis or inflammatory bowel disease or celiac disease, where there could have been damage in the brush border, the same can happen with histamines. And so it's not uncommon for those with SIBO or any of those autoimmune or inflammatory conditions to benefit from both types of enzymes, where they might need some to help with carbohydrate digestion, and then they might need some specifically for histamine, this biogenic amine, this specific type of protein that they could be struggling with. And it's
yeah,
nice to just have that relief again and not feel that constant bloat and discomfort, and
yeah.
not have that affect quality of life.
Yeah, I think so too. And also with histamine, of course, with lactose intolerance, it's quite easy to just don't eat dairy and don't eat things. But if you want to eliminate histamine from your diet, then it's so difficult to do so. It's almost not doable. So sometimes people ask me, like, we do have some lists where we say these foods are low in histamine, these are like average, and these are high. So they always try, but I think if you eliminate histamine from your diet, then you almost can't eat anymore. it's in so many foods. So yeah, it's really difficult with histamine intolerance. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It truly is. Yeah.
Yeah. And if it's that person who's benefiting from the enzymes, but maybe they got diagnosed with SIBO, and
Yeah.
generally, from all the evidence that I've read, the most up to date information, we usually will tell patients when you're treating your eating. So don't be on a low FODMAP diet while you're trying to treat your SIBO. You want to kind of entice those bacteria
Yeah.
and those bugs out into the small intestine. So that way, whatever treatment you're on, antibiotics, antimicrobial, it is effective.
Yeah.
Could that be the time when somebody is using an enzyme at the same time? Say before they got diagnosed, they were low FODMAP. Then we've
Yeah.
suddenly asked them to introduce FODMAPs. They're hugely bloated during that
Mm,
time of treatment. Would it be
yeah.
appropriate for that person to use an enzyme to just help them decrease some of that bloat? And would the treatment still be effective in that case?
Yeah, I think so. With digestive enzymes and SIBO, there has not been a lot of studies done yet. Or, of course, with SIBO for itself, it's still kind of a vague thing. We know a bit about it, but we don't know a lot about it. So digestive enzymes, of course, they don't treat SIBO directly, but we have seen some patients who said it was really helpful in managing their symptoms while someone is going through treatment. I think when there's bacterial overgrowth in the small intestine, those bacteria often start fermenting carbohydrates, of course, way too early. And that's what causes a lot of the classic symptoms people describe, like the bloating, the pressure, the gas, and the abdominal pain. So if you add specific enzymes to break down, for example, the FODMAPs, these will help break down these before the bacteria get the chance to ferment it in the gut. And I think that can significantly reduce gas production and also the post-meal discomfort. So I think it can really help. It doesn't cure or treat anything, but it can be really beneficial, I think. Yeah, yeah, we hear it sometimes from people.
And to solidify today's like really message and education and just bring it back to so many people's lives that we see, what in everyone's opinion, or what are we seeing, and what is the research even saying are like main lifestyle factors contributing to enzyme deficiency? Like what is putting someone at risk for enzyme deficiency that they're doing in their everyday life?
Well, I think there are a lot of causes for enzyme deficiency. Of course, it can be genetical, so you can have it and you don't know it. But I think also like factors like stress or these can of course really have an effect on your gut. And if you have a lot of stress, your gut will be really reactive to any kinds of food, and that can trigger food intolerances. So I think for me, the first thing to come in mind is just stress. I think that's a big thing for people with IBS, with food intolerances, with SIBO. And I think that, yeah, that sometimes can cause or can begin everything with the food intolerances and the heavily reacting and anything like that.
Luckily, there's nothing stressful going on in the world, and everyone's not stressed.
And,
Yeah,
stress can look different because, yes, that mental, emotional stress certainly can affect things, but even those physical stressors. So, whether that is an autoimmune condition that's
yeah,
creating some of that inflammation especially in the small intestine. So, we said, Crohn's, or it could be celiac disease or another autoimmune condition. I've had a patient develop sucrase isomaltase deficiency after using too many antacids. So they were very stressed, having reflux, taking Tums round the clock, and it actually led to temporary pancreatic insufficiency. And so that
yeah,
person benefited from taking enzymes temporarily as we were dealing with the results of it. So, that type of chemical stress could be one of
yeah,
them as well, or, microbial stress in a condition like microbial overgrowth, bacterial overgrowth, whether that's SIBO or fungal overgrowth. Those types of microbial stressors and overabundances can definitely cause damage in that area in the small intestine where enzyme production is affected. So yeah, anything really that's going to affect those main areas of enzyme production, that lining of the small intestine, that brush border, the pancreas. So whether that is, I've had my type 1 diabetics develop exocrine pancreatic insufficiency just because their pancreas is fatigued by something else, by that autoimmune condition. Patients who have disorders and diseases that affect their salivary production as well, that can affect enzyme production there in the saliva. So those with Sjogren's and other types of autoimmune diseases that are affecting saliva production, that can certainly be one of those stressors. So really anything, I think, that can stress out those three areas.
Yeah, and I love to highlight the metabolic. This is like really the gut metabolic connection of even those with type 2 diabetes, and your pancreas is extremely fatigued, your pancreas is inflamed, and therefore it is, and it can, and studies do show it inhibits some of the enzymatic activity and production in your pancreas, and therefore everything's connected, right? This is why we're integrative, and we love integrative products where it's realizing, oh, the liver is connected to the pancreas, is connected to the gallbladder, is connected to the gut. So it's even more like with our other dietitians on our team who specialize in metabolic health, it's even more of an incentive for those dealing with high cholesterol or poor liver health or type 2 diabetes to really say, oh, I need to get things in line before I start maybe having some enzymatic problems and then gut problems. And then it just becomes a snowball effect. And it really does trigger so much in the body. So it's so connected to everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, very powerful. So tell us, where in the US can our patients, can someone find Intolerant and all these beautiful enzymes?
Well, we have our own website. I think that's the best one actually to get them. We update our website regularly, so if we have new products or we have new bottles or anything, you can find them on our website. And we also have a lot of contact with other dietitians who can prescribe these enzymes, for example, for them, or can buy them from us, and then they just sell them to the client. So I think we like to keep it really with ourselves, just our own website, and we do have some really good contacts, and they can sell it for us.
Yeah.
So intolerant.com would be your
Yeah.
place to go. And I love that there's some education and, which enzyme could be for who on there. And one thing that you said that I loved that very much will resonate with our population and is that they're all plant-based. That can be rare to find, especially with DAO enzymes, where most of them are porcine-based or, they come from pigs. And so this is a really nice option for those who are plant-based and don't want animal sourced supplements. Intolerant is 100% plant-based, which is nice.
Well, I must say with the DHO enzyme, that is the only one that isn't plant-based. I've been a bit clearer about that, but we have done some studies, and we know the DHO enzymes can be also derived from plant-based sources, but we didn't see the same results as with the animal-based sources. So the DHO enzyme is the only one we have from animal source, because we really want, of course, to help the people and don't give them an enzyme that doesn't really help. So here the DHO enzyme is the only one which is animal-based.
Perfect.
Yeah. Well,
All
perfect.
right.
And then
I love it.
shout out to the dietitian, 3 dietitians today. It's so important because again, it's overwhelming when people's like, okay, which one of these do I take? How do I take them? And that's why, we love, you working with your dietitian to then design the best kind of plan for you and really understanding, all the kind of areas you can struggle with and then have a medical nutrition therapy to then help you focus on the best action plan. So cool. That's so great. Thanks, Iris, for coming on and educating and answering a lot of our questions. We know a lot of our patients and community just have these questions about enzymes. They're using enzymes. Maybe some don't know how to properly use the enzymes. So this has been...
Or they've used the wrong enzymes.
Used the wrong enzymes.
helpful
enzymes.
for them.
Yeah.
And we're all about helping people heal with each meal. We know enzymes can be a big part of that. That if you can't eat the foods, it's hard to heal your relationship with the food, and it's hard to heal your body without eating those foods. So we love the bridge that this provides. We love, again, the crutches that it provides in that rehab process, and just love the education you all are providing. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed being on the podcast with you and just sharing some of our thoughts. Also, it's really nice that you're also a dietitian, so I think it's just really nice to talk because I think we do the same thing, only just a different corner of the same thing. So yeah, I really loved it.
Wonderful.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you everybody for tuning in to the Good Gut Live podcast. As always, we are live. And then if you're listening to this later, you're listening hopefully on Spotify and Apple and all these great venues. As always, feel with each meal
And heal with each meal.
Until next time, bye everybody.